It's Friday, so let's answer all of our questions sent in from the listeners.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned in to an early edition of Mailbag Friday on Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. And you can check us out on wherever you listen to your podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For some of the newer listeners wondering how often we post and what this channel is all about, well, we bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes that you can catch pretty much anywhere. We also have 60-second YouTube shorts. And now moving forward, we have Royals Postcast hosted by Chance Lebo. So anytime you want an immediate reaction, Chance goes live as soon as the final out is recorded. He had his first episode yesterday, so if you wanted to check that out, you can always go back and do so. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So get started today at FanDuel. Well, as for today's edition, we got about 40-ish questions to get to. Should be able to get to everybody's question without any issue. If I missed your question and you had it buried somewhere in one of our old videos, don't worry at all. I'll still find a way to answer it for you. By the end of the weekend, just send it below on this YouTube video, or you can direct message me on Twitter. Want to make sure that everybody's question is answered, even if it's not mentioned in this video. So let's kick things off here with question number one coming from Colton. Hey, Jack, if today was game one of the postseason, do you still go with Reagan's on the bump or do you go with Bubich? If it was today, and both guys were healthy, but these were the numbers they have been producing, maybe it would be matchup based, though they're both left-handed arms, but maybe you could have a team that is a little bit worse against a slider-heavy and change-up-heavy pitcher like Chris Bubich can be. I would go with Chris Bubich. Just the way that he's thrown this year, it's been so dominant, and you could almost lock him in right now for 6 innings of one-run ball or less. So I would probably lean toward Chris Bubich. Little bit of recency bias involved, considering that Reagan's wasn't good last night, and he hasn't been good for quite some time now. But if he gets healthy and he starts pitching well again, I have a lot of confidence that the Royals would probably make him a game one starter in the postseason, and then they would evaluate what they wanted to do for game two and game three, whether that be Bubich or Waka or Lugo or Noah Cameron that they'd be going to. Next question comes from DJ. Seemed like Reagan's was trying to be Noah Cameron tonight. You can't change the way you pitch in 15 days. Maybe he can because he's a big leaguer, but it didn't work out. 91-93 is not Reagan's. Needs another rehab start. As we brought up on last night's, the second episode of yesterday's show, you got to have him pitch through this if he's healthy. Now, if he's not healthy, that's a totally different story, but the Royals weren't going to activate him if he wasn't ready to go. They're very much cautious when it comes to working guys back into the bullpen or working guys back into the rotation. I mean, take Hunter Harvey, for example. Hunter Harvey has gotten ramped up before, and then he felt some soreness, and they shut him down. Alec Marsh, same exact thing this year, that they're not going to rush anybody back, even if they are your number one starter when healthy. So, no, it's not him. This version of Cole Reagan's is not the true Cole Reagan's, in my opinion, but he's got to pitch through it. And if there's some bumps along the way, we all should acknowledge the fact that him in the rotation, him pitching well, is their best chance at making a deep run in October. Next one comes from Cole. Do you think Jack being in the clubhouse boosts this offense? They have scored 5 or more runs in this series, which they haven't done this season. Or I believe it was this season. Yeah. I would say that there was some effect. Absolutely. I mean, as you just brought up in the question, they haven't done it this year. They have been a team that rarely scores 5 runs or more a game. And even though Jack Kagelion went 1 for 12 in his first big league series, I fully expect there to be some some early struggles for a guy that barely spent that much time at the minor league level, but it sparked something within the offense. You have seen Salvador Perez get a little bit hotter. You have seen Jonathan India get a little bit hotter. Michael Garcia and Bobby Witt Jr. were a really nice 2-3 punch at the top of the order. The bottom of the order was giving production last night and really all series long. Him being in the clubhouse, I do believe there is a little bit of a boost to it. That's what impression I got on Tuesday night when I was down in the clubhouse. So, yes, I will say point blank that I believe it has had an impact on the clubhouse and on this team when they're out there on the field. Next one here is coming from, I believe, unless I didn't miss anything here, Wilson. I've heard lots of talk about Jack, but I don't know that I've heard a swing comparison. Who do you compare his swing to? Man, that's a good question. I would say that there was talk on MLB Network, and I want to say it was Mark DeRosa, who will be managing Team USA in the WBC again. He likened it to Travis Hafner. I always thought that Travis Hafner and Vinny Pasquantino had some comparable swings. Vinny's is more compact, I would say, where Jack Kagelion has more of the violent, powerful swing. So maybe for now, I'll say Hafner. He also has a little bit of a Cody Bellinger swing and follow through to him. But I've also seen him follow through one-handed. It's not the same thing where it's always a two-handed follow through. He changes it up every once in a while depending on how hard he connects with the ball. I feel after watching him for a month, I'll have a really good comparison, so I don't want to jump the gun just yet. For now, I might side with Mark DeRosa and say Travis Hafner a little bit. But even then, I'm not sold on that. I need to see maybe 100 at-bats and then go back and do some digging on some other guys where I feel he's got that comparable swing. So TBD on this. I'm going to push this back a little bit more, but I probably will be talking about it after a full week of games next week as well, because I want to think on that a bit more. Love the question, though. Next one comes from Logan. As of now, do you believe the Royals should trade within the rotation, preferably Lugo, for a solidified bat, or stay away from the rotation and trade for a platoon bat? Example, Randall Grichuk taking Canna's spot or Gurriel taking over left field. I would be floored if the Royals traded from their rotation, just because they understand, and I feel a lot of people around baseball feel the same way about the Royals. They are built on pitching. And the only way they are going to make the postseason and make a deep run in the postseason is if that is still the case. You want the offense to get going, that's for sure. But you want to see this rotation, be their headliner, be their strong point, be what everybody points to if they make the postseason. That rotation is so tough to beat. That bullpen is now much better than last year. And if the offense can do a little bit and do comparable things to what they did this week against the Cardinals, then you really have something cooking there. But trading Lugo, I don't see it. I really don't. They want Lugo in the rotation, and I'm not sure what all you could get for Seth Lugo. I feel they're going to be aggressive, but if they're trading somebody, it'll probably be something like last year where J.J. McCullough said, we felt we needed to add and not subtract. And yes, you are subtracting from your minor league system, but those are guys that are not on your big league roster. You're wanting to add to that big league roster and not take away from it. Fair question, though. Next one is going to be coming from Dave. What do you think the timetable is for Massie to get sent down? I think everyone was surprised that it was Blanco and not Rave or Massie. Also, do you think there's a chance that he gets DFA'd or he's in better standings than that with the front office? The reason that Dairon Blanco was sent down, as Q told us on Tuesday, was that he just wasn't getting in the game that much. And he wasn't being used as a pinch runner in the same way that he was last year. So they felt his spot wasn't really as needed for this point in the season. That can always change later on. You can make the case, well, what is Michael Massie's role for this team? The good defense at second base is his best attribute, and they still feel that he can give them a chance to catch fire with him in the lineup. I believe there is still that hope that he can do it. There's still that positivity that when he gets going, you can see a Michael Massie that was a league average bat last year. He's got that in him, and I'm sure the front office and Matt Quatraro still feel that way. But yes, I would say the clock is ticking a little bit because Nick Lofton's looked really good. Jonathan India's been heating up. You have Jack Kagelion out there. Massie only played one game in that series. He might be taking more of a diminished role on this team, but with the defense, that gives the Royals a chance to make a switch late in the game. And if he does start hitting well, then you do have a pretty good bat off the bench from the left side. So the timetable, if he doesn't improve things by the final week in June, maybe the tail end of the middle portion of June, I could see them demoting him to Omaha. And that's also if Nick Lofton continues to hit really well, because then you just don't really have him in the lineup as often. And if Nick Lofton can play good defense at second base, then there's your answer. Or if he can play good defense in left field and Jonathan India is just handling that position all on his own. So I would say, definitely before the end of June, if things haven't turned around, then you would be looking at him getting demoted, but 0% chance that he gets DFA'd this season. Okay, let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, still a lot of questions to get to next on Locked On Royals. You are tuning to Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can listen to us on wherever you find your podcast. Want to tell you about Supply House so you can get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person every time. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Our next question is going to begin with Camaro. What are some realistic expectations for Jack this season? With a little under 100 games to go, I predict that he can get to 20 home runs. Trying to think what pace that would have him at. I really feel that he can get close to 20. If not 20, I think anywhere from 15 to 20. Driving in hopefully around 60-ish, 60 to 65. If he can hit 240, I can feel satisfied with that. And then have an OPS plus of 100 or 110, somewhere in that range. I feel that's very realistic. Once he catches fire, once he gets really comfortable and has that maturity at the plate, I feel that he can really transform this lineup in ways that we haven't seen before in the Matt Quatraro era, truly having a legitimate power bat that can do serious damage on one swing. A and B's question, I'm new to baseball, so I didn't watch Bobby's first 2 years in the league. I'm hoping someone can answer these two questions. Number one, how does Jack compare to Bobby as far as a pure pedigree as a prospect goes? And number two, was there much hype and anticipation around Bobby's big league debut? For number one, Bobby's a five-tool player, so he does pretty much everything well, where Jack Kagelion isn't quite a five-tool player, and he's far more known for his power. There was a lot of hype around Bobby Witt Jr., and that was league-wide as well. His dad was a big leaguer, and he was a top 2 draft pick and the number 1 prospect in baseball. So there was hype. It was just opening day. So everybody was having guys, make their debuts on opening day. They just weren't as prominent as Bobby Witt Jr. And it was a bad Royals team. So there wasn't that same type of hype that we saw this week in St. Louis with Jack Kagelion. Home runs, though, is what drives up the ratings. Everybody loves to watch home runs, and Jack Kagelion does that. Bobby Witt Jr. can, and he's more of a complete player. But in terms of pure pedigree, I feel that Bobby is in the long run going to be a better player. But Jack Kagelion can definitely be the better power hitter of the two when it's all said and done. Next one here is coming from Jeff on Twitter. Does Lorenzen hit the IL with a mysterious injury? If it happens before, mailbag, ignore. And how many career home runs does he have? Sorry, not my toughest question. No, you got it in at the right time. I would say that Lorenzen would hit the phantom IL if he does not pitch well on Sunday. I'm getting the sense they want to go with a 6-man rotation because Lorenzen is starting on Sunday. But if it doesn't go well against this White Sox lineup, then yeah, I could maybe see something like, arm soreness or elbow soreness, shoulder soreness, fatigue, arm fatigue, something like that. And then he hits the IL for just 15 days. But that could happen. Let's just hope he pitches well on Sunday. Dro's question: seems to me all of Royals Twitter is extremely disappointed with Hunter Harvey's injury. How many more years of control do we have with him? And what makes you think he could possibly contribute to the team for more than a handful of games? Well, the 60-man or the 60-day IL move was more so procedural. So you have a guy that's been on the IL for 60 days. You do that so that you can open up a 40-man roster spot, which they needed to for the doubleheader games, though now Thomas Hatch got DFA'd and Andrew Hoffman got sent back down to Omaha with the activation of Cole Reagans. Maybe if you get him back in August and September or maybe July, you can just get a couple of months out of him. This is his final year with Kansas City unless they re-sign him. This was his extra year of control when they traded for him last year. That's why they liked him so much, was the power arm, but also they had him for an extra year. He just hasn't been available, and that's been an issue in his career, his durability. But if you can get him for just, maybe a month or two late in the season, it can help out your bullpen when everybody might be worn down. But with the way that Steven Cruz is pitching, Steven Cruz is just a better arm for that bullpen. So if you don't get Hunter Harvey back in the same role, I feel they have upgraded a little bit in getting Steven Cruz for the later innings. This one comes from Casey Recap. After multiple stints on the MLB team and down in AAA, Drew Waters and Nick Loftton have finally broke through. How sustainable is this, and how is your lineup looking ahead 2 to 3 years? Or are they in your lineup, I should say? I would say 2 to 3 years from now, it's unlikely they're both still in the lineup. But I would say that it is sustainable for this year. Maybe not hitting 275, 280 for the entire year, but they can still be league average players in the lineup. And that can be a big boost for this offense. Looking ahead, though, it might be a bit of a stretch 3 years from now if they're everyday players in the Royals lineup. This one is from Football KC. Why is Michael Massie still on the roster? Listed as a DH before Wednesday's night game was postponed. His defense is only a valuable asset. Feel like we're getting punked at this point. As we brought up a little bit, so I don't want to repeat myself too much, they do love the defense. They're hopeful he can still turn things around. And that's probably because Jonathan India hasn't had great defense at second base. Nick Loftton is playing more of the outfield since being recalled. So to have that defensive switch late in the game, it can be valuable to you. And if you have him hit his stride a little bit, it's always good to have a nice left-handed bat off the bench. But the clock is ticking. You need him to turn things on. Otherwise, you're going to need to call up Cam Devaney from AAA Omaha. Next one is from Jerry. Perez has caught 259 innings, and pitchers have a 4.34 ERA. Fermin has caught 258 innings, and pitchers have a 2.06 ERA. Do you think Fermin should be catching more with this big difference? I would like to say yes, but there's just really not a spot open in the lineup. With Jack Kagelion playing every day and probably in right field, you have Vinny at first, so Salvi's got to catch. Or I guess you could DH him and Fermin would do the catching, but then you're going to be weeding out maybe a Drew Waters or a Nick Loftton. And Fermin, he was great last night, and he is fantastic behind the plate. I would like to see him catch more, but the Royals also don't want to overexpose him as an everyday player. We saw that last year when he had to fill in as an everyday player because Vinny went down, and it just wasn't that good. He is somebody that thrives playing maybe twice a week, and I believe the Royals will keep it that way. Next one is from, I believe, Tom. What's wrong with Chris Bubich? Asking why he's skipping starts. I was going to say, I'm not sure there's anything wrong with Chris Bubich. They are wanting to make sure they don't overwork him in the first half, and then you get some severe regression in the second half. Mainly because he didn't throw a lot of innings last year. It was out of the bullpen, and we know there's going to be some fatigue at one point. So to have a 6-man rotation or just to have him skip a start, that's one way to conserve some of those innings later on in the season and make sure that he's 100% rested. So that's all they're doing there with maybe skipping a day or two between starts. But I fully expect him to be ready to go next week for the homestand against the Yankees and the Athletics. All right, let's take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap it up with our final questions next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson. You can always find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Our final questions are going to begin with Mike. Is it realistic to target one of a Eugenio Suarez, Ryan O'Hearn, or Taylor Ward, and then follow it up with a Dane Myers, Alex Collar, Jesus Sanchez? I believe that's possible. And with Jeff Passan's article of the Royals planning to be aggressive in July, I expect more than one trade acquisition. Eugenio Suarez was the fit that Passan brought up. I believe that would be a perfect fit to add more power and more pop in the lineup. He's been a above league average bat the last handful of years and is one of the top home run hitters in the National League right now. So yes, you could go after someone like that and still get some depth for your bench. Could they get Dane Myers with how he's played early on this season with Miami? It's possible. Jesus Sanchez might be a little bit more likely, but I would envision something like what they did last year with Lucas Ursig being their big fish, and they added someone like Paul DeJong to lengthen out the lineup a little bit. Next one is from Jason. With a good start today, does Cameron stay in the rotation and Lorenzen get moved to the bullpen? Well, since this was sent in before the doubleheader was actually played, I will just say I'm leaning toward a 6-man rotation because they expressed interest in keeping Chris Bubich fresh and rested, and Noah Cameron's not going anywhere, that's for sure. So for now, I would say it'll be a 6-man rotation over moving Lorenzen to the bullpen. Cole Reagan's mustache asks, what's Cag's max home run in the season after the year 2030? I'll say 52. I would probably put it in the 50s. If we're talking about max, yeah, anywhere from 52 to 55 would probably be where I would put it. I feel that he is going to be the one to break Salvador Perez's record for home runs in a season and Jorge Soler because they tied at 48. He'll be the first Royal to get to 50, that's for sure. Next one comes from Ronnie. Do you think they called up Jack because he's actually ready or out of desperation? I'm guessing it's a little bit of both. I didn't get the sense of desperation. I really feel that they are so high on Jack Kagelion and feel that he was ready. It wasn't the perfect time for the big league team and him calling up because they weren't playing well and the offense wasn't playing well. But they were very high on him, and that's just the new day of Major League Baseball. Prospects don't need a lot of time down there, especially college bats. And there are a few guys in minor league baseball that can progress as quickly. We saw it with Kurtz over with the Athletics, though he's now on the injured list. It took him a little bit to get going, but now he is a league average bat for the Athletics. And that's probably going to happen for Jack Kagelion as well. But I didn't get the sense of desperation. I felt that they really believe he can help their lineup right now. This one's from Blaze with Passan saying the Red Sox could move Duran or Wilyer Abreu. What would the package be for one of them coming to the Royals? It would be hefty. It would be giving up pretty much everybody in your top 5. Maybe not all of them, but 3 of the 5, 4 of the 5, and maybe even a big league piece to go get one of those players. Wilyer Abreu is one of the more underrated players in all of baseball, and Jarren Duran's one of the top players on the Red Sox, even though he's not having as good of a season. It would be quite the price, in my opinion, and I don't see the Royals going out there and getting either 2 of those players. Next one comes from Mark. Will Kyle Wright have a role this year, and will he have trade value, or will he be someone they rely on if they trade a pitcher away for a bat? I would say the only role that he would have is out of the bullpen. I don't see him starting in the rotation unless it was a spot start. Does he have any trade value? Likely not, considering he hasn't pitched in the big league since 2023. Cam's question, will Jack be a bust? I would put money on no. I feel that he is going to be one of the more prolific power bats in all of baseball pretty soon. That's what all the scouts are saying. That's what big name reporters like Jeff Passan are saying. So I don't believe that he is going to be a bust. No. Mike's question, who pitches more innings in the majors this year, Kyle Wright or Alec Marsh? I'll say Kyle Wright. I don't believe that Alec Marsh is that close, and I'm starting to lose hope that he's going to pitch in the big leagues this year and might just have the entire year off. And if not, maybe he can get a couple of rehab outings in Omaha, and then he can get closer to returning maybe in the second half and later on in the second half. This one's from Sports Ball. If Jack can help the Royals make the playoffs, do you think he stays with them throughout the playoff run? I would say 100%. I mean, if he's going to help them and he's up here right now, he would be starting in the postseason every single game. Drink Up's question, what is your updated deadline wish list? Who do you see them giving up at the deadline? It's tough to tell. You never really know who they're willing to give up in this farm system. I would say that anybody from that 5 to 20 range should be pretty open for discussion when trying to add players. Uh, Eugenio Suarez was the one we brought up earlier because Jeff Passan did. I don't believe he just brought that up on a whim. I'm sure there have been some discussions, maybe that he would be the best fit for the Royals. We'll see, though, closer to July. Taylor Ward's always going to be a name I like. Love Brandon Lau, but now the Rays are starting to win more games. Looking at the Red Sox, it would be tough to get anybody there. Maybe Rafaela if you wanted to have that great defense out there in the outfield and more of a speed bat in the lineup if things started to go south with Drew Waters or Nick Loftton. So those are the couple of names, and anybody 5 through 20 in the Royals system I would probably be okay giving up. Eli's question, with Cameron pitching well and Wright coming off rehab soon, should the Royals look at moving Lorenzen to a pitching-needy team like the Astros while his value is still high in exchange for some prospects we can use at the deadline? I just don't know if you're going to get a lot for Lorenzen. I mean, he's going to be a free agent next year. The only time those guys get a lot of interest at the deadline is if they're pitching well, and Lorenzen's not. We'll see what he looks like, though, a little bit later on, closer to the deadline. This one comes from Justin. Jack, where should I realistically set my expectations to make the playoffs this year? 50% is starting to feel optimistic. I would leave it around 45 to 55%. I know that's right on the line of 50 or going below it or above it. I would say it's going to be pretty close to that until they make a serious run. I mean, being 3 games over 500, that's just not going to get it done. They're going to need to have another stretch where they can win, 10 of 12 or, maybe 15 of 20, really get hot and put themselves firmly in a playoff spot. But for now, I'd say anywhere from 45 to 55 is pretty realistic for this team. This one is from the Mizzler. Thoughts on the wave? Absolutely hate it. I hated it every single game I've been at. I believe it just distracts a lot of people. I'm all for the kids having fun, and if they start it, sure, that's all good. But if you're trying to do it in a close game, it's not what the focus should be on. It should absolutely be on the game. This one's from Aiden. Briefly heard the new post-game stream for Locked On Royals and heard Chance talk about how India playing second base has helped him. So would you like to see the Royals do the same thing with Kags and make him a DH first baseman where he is naturally? Don't see that happening. When we talked to JJ and Q on Tuesday, it seems that he is going to be a right fielder and a DH while he's up here in Kansas City for 2025. Maybe you can switch things around once you get to the offseason, but he's going to be in right field, I would say 90% of the time. And when he's not, he's going to be DHing for this team. This one's from Chris. Would it make sense for the Royals to target starting pitching in a trade, given Lorenzen's struggles and injuries to the staff, or does the organization feel confident in its upper minors to fill those gaps as the season progresses? You could always try to add an extra swing starter for this team. They might view Daniel Lynch as just that opener and then a bullpen game if it got to that point. But if you have multiple injuries again in the rotation, then yes, you would have to go out there and add some starting pitching. And the same way they did last year with Michael Lorenzen. This one's from Bobby Litt Jr. I know it's early, but if you had one perfect trade package, what would it be? Well, now that I've been on the topic of Eugenio Suarez, bringing him in and only having to give up one of Blake Mitchell, Ramon Ramirez, or Carter Jensen, then maybe you throw in one of those pitchers like a Blake Walters or a Hero Wyatt, and then maybe you'd have to throw in another one. I'm not sure it would take 3 guys to get Eugenio Suarez. So maybe 2 of them or just one of those top catchers, and then you throw in a Eric Sarantola or a Steven Zobak, and that might be able to get it done. I just don't know how willing Arizona is to move him, or if they are going to move him, what the asking price is going to be. But I would love to add him to a lineup like this so you could add even more power to the middle of the order. This one is from Craig. When is Cam Devaney replacing Massie? I'll stick with my prediction of if things haven't changed by the end of June, I can expect Cam Devaney to get a shot up in Kansas City. Satchel's Page, who's the most realistic 7-hole hitter we can trade for, specifically a right-hander. Mine is Andujar or maybe Robert, depending on what both teams want. I would far more side with Miguel Andujar. That feels likelier. The Athletics have completely fallen out of contention. Andujar feels like a good bat you can have in that lineup. Luis Robert, even though he's not playing well, the White Sox are going to be asking for more because the Royals are in their division, and I'm not sure that he would be the perfect fit in Kansas City. Royals day to dugouts question, better barbecue, Kansas City or St. Louis? And an absolute runaway, it would be Kansas City there, and that's always going to be my answer. Last one here comes from Tanner. Will Q ever learn to not overmanage himself into a corner late in the games? It's a very good question. I know a lot of people have the same thought when it comes to Matt Quattro's bullpen management. They are a team that is very data-driven. They're very analytical with those decisions, and I still feel that they use some of that gut feel late in the game where if a guy can go out there and give you an extra inning like Angel Serpa did last night, like Steven Cruz did, then you can stick with him. But this is the way they just manage the bullpen. And a lot of it comes down to guys going out there and doing their job. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to work out. But I would say that, the way that he manages it, the way he chooses to go to certain pitchers, I don't envision that changing anytime soon. You're just hoping that it's going to benefit you and not burn you long term. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Before we say goodbye for the weekend, thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll still be bringing you YouTube shorts over the weekend, and the Royals postcast will be live as well after each and every game in Chicago. But until Monday, you take it easy, Kansas City.